you instilled the program, right, inside the book, right? And why did you write this book?
The when I started my coaching practice, I started to hear myself say a lot of the same things to pretty much everybody with whom I was working, simply because human problems are human problems. You know, the inner angst and the way that we view our thoughts about a problem as the problem, that is something that has required a lot of work for people, regardless of their problem being laid off, divorce, leaving or entering the workforce, major moves, death, illness, right? Whatever the situation was, that I was saying a lot of the same things over and over again and teaching a lot of the same tools over and over again. So I got on my elliptical one night, and I put my computer up there, and I'm typing away, sweating like a pig. Going, I gotta get this, I gotta put some organization in this. This has to be a book. And I said a phrase as I was just typing away, stream of consciousness coming out. I said a phrase in there about this idea of failure culturally being something we try to avoid. You said it earlier in the interview. We try to get rid of the bad. We try to avoid the bad. We try to make sure that we don't do bad, right? And I was talking about this idea that if we cannot embrace that, we cannot give ourselves a platform for growth and learning. And I said, we must be willing to fail to win. And I went, oh, that should be its own chapter. So I started writing its own chapter. And the more detailed I got in there, the more I realized that's not a chapter, that's its own book. And before I even wrote the book, what I wanted to do was make sure these concepts rang true for people. I wanted to make sure that the tools I was teaching, people could fit into their lives right now, right where they are. Because here's what people do, and you are a self-help expert, and you talk to everybody, you've got all of the influences, so you know this is what happens. People go, yeah, my life is too crazy right now, I'll work on myself at some point, right? They might buy the book and put it on the shelf, or they might buy, learn the tools or read the book, and then they forget about them, because the mindset is, if I'm going to do that stuff, it has to come at the right time. So I really wanted to make sure that what I was writing about and the tools that I was giving people to use was easy to digest, easy to remember, and easy to implement right there in the midst of their own chaos. So what I did is I got some people together and I said, hey, let me teach you some tools. You can give me some feedback. Let me know how it goes. I actually ended up creating this rough draft for a book that became a beta course, that became a course. And then I went backward and made that course back into that book. So that's why that's where that came from, and that's why it's taken the path that it has. But the great thing about it is when you get this book, it's all been tested. It isn't something that I just went, hey, I have some cool ideas, I hope you think they're cool too. These are things that people are using in their lives to transform not just their outlook, but because they can transform how they're showing up in the world, of course, everything else in their life is transforming as well.
Right. Yeah. The way you explain it, you're very into how, when I was watching your video, when you talk, you have this energy about you, and you have this amazing personality. I really like that. It shows that, even though I can't usually, I don't know about you, but I can feel usually when I'm near a person, I don't know about the laptop or what we're doing. I can usually tell a person, is it they're really bad, or I'm talking about the good vibe, the bad.
The
mojo. But that's off topic. But so speaking of willing to fail, and you said all these things are correct, but I feel like in society or in school, how most people are afraid to fail, and they want it to be like perfect, but not always. Like they try to overanalyze. How can we get past the fear that we have
Well, a lot of it, the biggest practice we can do right now is to get super, super present. Because if you think about where that fear comes from, it very rarely comes from the moment that we're in, right? You're talking about in school where the pressure is incredible. You are supposed to know what you're going to do with your life. You are supposed to get the perfect grades, and anything you do, personally is going to end up on your permanent record. And all of the institution that is pushing this path of education, it's telling us not to stay present. It's saying, don't screw up now because it's going to mess up your future, right? And so our brain goes to the future. If I do this, then this, and this is going to fail, and I'm going to end up in a bad school, or I'm not going to go to school, and then I'm not going to get a good job, and the talk gets faster, and it gets louder, and it starts to overshadow absolutely everything that's sitting right in front of you at this moment. The best way we can stop the fear is to make sure we are right here, right now, and not borrowing trouble from the future. We have no idea how things are going to pan out. And you live long enough and you start looking back, and you can't believe how many times you go, if I would have known this would have turned out okay, I would not have beat myself up. I would not have been afraid. That happens over and over again. And if we can stop listening to this cultural idea that we have to know how our journey is going to end in order to take the journey. If we can stop buying into that, then we can just be right where we are, making the best choices that we can in the moment, and just looking for that next step, just the next step, not the whole pathway, just that next little step. And then we can boldly take that one step, right? We can take, and then we're there. And now we have a moment where we can look for that next step. It's all about presence. It's all about understanding that our circumstances do not make our lives miserable. Our thoughts and beliefs and habits about our circumstances make our lives miserable. And guess what? All of those things are with us all the time. And when we tune into those and we deal with those, now we can stay in a place where we can be at least calm. The better we get at it, we can get to peaceful. And the better we get at that, the more we're in that peaceful place. Now we're in the part of our brain that can be creative. It can problem solve. It can see opportunities that it wouldn't have seen while it was right here in blinders with the fear, right? Now that that's taken off, we can see the options and the resources we have in the now to address the problems that we were afraid were going to blow up during a time and space that we had no control over. Have you done anything like that? Have you?
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you have that experience? Has that been your experience of fear?
No, well, yes, but I usually move towards my fear because I know that if I move towards my fear, that